Hello, welcome to the pre-class slides for Module 11. We're going to talk about archives and digital collections in this class. We need to remind you about this acronym, GLAMS, sometimes called Cultural Heritage Institutions. Then we're going to talk about archives and museums, and a little bit in this pre-class about digital collections, but only just one slide. So I hope you've read the Smithsonian brochure talking about digital collections in the museum context. GLAM institutions are, GLAM stands for galleries, libraries, archives, and museums. And it's the new language that's linking these institutions together. They're linked in other more specific ways. Some of them have combined administrations. We've talked about that before. And bits of collections in these different institutions look like the other institutions. So there are things in museums that look like archives. There are things in archives that look like libraries, materials. There are whole sections of libraries that are called archives or special collections. All of those things are linked together. So especially in the digital world, those collections can be shared and brought together. So, but the history of these institutions are that they had very different organizing principles. Libraries, as we've seen throughout this semester, group the same formats together. As you did your walkthroughs in your, unfamiliar libraries, you notice books were all in one place, CDs were in another place, DVDs were in another place. And what we usually try to do is to put things together by topic, although as you found out, sometimes the DVDs are actually by title. Some libraries use genre instead of topic, etc. Archives, on the other hand, are organized around the idea of a particular person and the collection of materials from that particular person. So there is an archive at UNCG of Margaret Maron's papers, and they're considered as one collection, and they're related to each other. Provenance and context are more important than format or topic. Museums rely primarily on provenance when you acquired it. So there's usually some sort of date format in the way things are organized together in a storeroom. So it'll be the 1979 collection, the 1980 collection, etc. And a little bit by the type of material. You can't put the sculptures next to a particular painting, and things in a museum are brought together for topical arrangement, for artists, exhibits, etc. GLAMs have real materials. Obviously, people will still be drawn to the power of the real thing, and that's comes from that Smithsonian report, which is a very important consideration. So even though we're digitizing lots of materials, the original objects are being preserved, conserved, and kept so that people can interact with that object at some point. The difference between archives and national libraries um, is a very real one. Um, National libraries became the most visible champions of open access, and on archives, on the other hand, didn't necessarily want to advertise all the stuff that they have in their collections, and that's true of museums as well. Libraries could move things around like a book or a periodical, and put things together by topic. So the Margaret Maron papers, in a library, people think of those maybe existing alongside her books. Um, but definitely in an archive, as I said before, they'll be um, kept in the context in which they were collected. Um, And so cataloging for libraries was to give things a new identity, a topical identity where they could sit next to other things on the same topic. But we violate that all the time, as you found with DVDs. They, DVD versions of A Christmas Carol are not sitting next to the books. And I've always found that to be a problem in libraries, but um, it it's just easier to handle these different materials if they're all kept together. So this is an example of archival arrangement. You can see, maps next to boxes of stuff, and again, that idea of context and when they were acquired. Page 41 of that report that I had you read talks about libraries and archives having progressed because they primarily have two-dimensional objects. Three-dimensional, which is the province of museums, present a different challenge, and one that is now being met by having new materials and actually new tools to deal with digital three-dimensional objects, and that is the brave new world of digitization. So this is an example of traditional archival tools, which were often called finding aids. These this is from the Library of Congress collection, archival collection, and you can search finding aids here. I will show you an example of that. This is museum storage. Sort of similar to archival storage, but you can see that these objects that are in the same drawers are the same kind of object rather than being separated by when they were acquired. As I said before, access to objects is more difficult, but this report was saying that has to change. and the Smithsonian is working to change that. For us, um, and you and your careers, um, there will be opportunities to build digital collections. This is an example of a very local picture from UNCG. Um, this is a May Day celebration. Um, Looks a little odd and strange to me, but there it is. And those that focus on building unique local um, collections of important materials is going to be the definitely the focus for all kinds of libraries as we go forward. So I have homework for you. I'd like you to find one digital archive collection, a finding aid, which I talked about before, and one digital museum collection. Um, Bring the URL for one record from each to class, and be prepared to share that with others. So, see you in class.